So,
what's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Weekly Top 5's from Library Chess Productions. So you probably gathered by this point that we like movies and we like video games, but kind of an underrated thing, we like television too. So that's what we're going to talk about today, our top 5 television shows of all time.
So I'm going to start this one off. So my number 5 is Heroes. But really only season 1. Before the MCU, when really superhero movies were taken off, there was some, but TV had not really seen much in the way of like really high quality superhero shows. There has been some, depending on who you ask, obviously, especially animated ones, whatever. But Heroes, I hadn't even heard of it, but then someone just bought it for me because I kept looking at it in stores. It was like, Heroes, and she's like, I'll buy it for you. Cool. So I became so addicted to that show because the storylines were so good and the characters were so good, and it built this mystery of season 1 around this disaster that was going to happen, and they all had neat powers, and it was just different for superheroes. It lost its way as it went on, especially the second season, because the writer's strikes screwed it.
That's right.
I don't think that the third and fourth seasons were quite as bad as a lot of people think, but I definitely see the criticisms of it and how they characterized, especially Skylar or whatever his name was. I can't remember now. The villain guy. But season 1, just season 1 alone is enough for me to put this, because I often compare shows to Heroes. I think that while it's not my favorite show of all time, I think that Heroes season 1 stands tall amongst all my favorite seasons. It has one of the best first seasons ever. It's just a shame that the creator admitted that they didn't really have anything thought out past that. There was going to be like a anthology type of thing where it's like every season was different heroes, which I'm glad they didn't do. I'm not really into that. But he just didn't think of where to go, so the writing became crappy. But this first season, let's not forget how good the first season of that show was.
That was a show that I actually never really watched more than an episode or two, and never hooked me. I should commit to sitting down and watching that first season just to see if, because like you say, unfortunately it kind of jumps the shark after that point, but if I can hook myself into that first season, at the very least it could be like an undergrads kind of thing, where it's like, hey, at least it was one great season.
Yeah.
So my number 5 best TV show of all time is actually, in a sort of similar way to the way you described Heroes, I think has an incredible first season, a pretty good second season, and not too bad third season, and then from that kind of tails off towards there, but it's still enough to hold on for me because I just love those opening seasons. It's The Walking Dead. I think the first 6-episode season of The Walking Dead is tremendous. I've watched it so many times, and I can still put on season 1, episode 1, and watch that first season over and over and over again, and it never gets bad. Like, that first season is so good. Like, that's still a really good first and second season, and then the third season and beyond, it's kind of gone down, and now a lot of people just kind of say it's basically jumped the shark completely. But the first few seasons of The Walking Dead is so incredible, and that is one of those TV shows that just strikes as something so different, and it was such a home run for AMC. And I love those first few seasons very dearly. So for me, it was close for my number 5, but Walking Dead is the one that I'm going to give it to.
Yeah, there was a time I was not a big fan of The Walking Dead, but I certainly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for a few seasons, and then I just stopped.
Right.
I don't even know that I thought it got bad. I just was, all of a sudden, I'm just, I don't really want to watch this anymore. But I agree. Some people did criticize the second season for being slow on the front.
Right.
And I didn't mind it. I don't know if I went back now and watched it, being out of The Walking Dead, if maybe I would see it as boring, but at the time I did not, and it was nice to have a really cool zombie show, even though zombies are, the market is saturated with zombies.
Yeah.
Maybe less so than it used to be, but
it's not that, like, and I didn't mean to characterize it if I did. I didn't mean to, that, like, The Walking Dead, like, after the third season just totally falls off the cliff. But, like, I started to see more of the holes, and I started getting less and less enjoyment beyond like the prison. Basically, still has its moments where it's still like, and even still now has its moments where it's like, oh yeah, great, this is the great Walking Dead, but then it's, you know, kind of goes back and forth. But still, to me, still again, just especially those first few seasons, an absolutely great show.
For my number 4, we're going right back to my childhood, my all-time favorite show as a kid. I watched some of it years ago again, and I still really enjoyed it. Maybe nostalgia played a part in that, but I don't care because it's Alf.
Oh,
I love Alf.
Doo doo doo.
At the beginning. When he puts the camera down and you see his feet chasing the guy, like that still works for me.
Chasing the cat.
And I remember I bought a DVD from Blockbuster years ago, and we came up to your house, and it was only like a few episodes or something. It was weird. It wasn't even a full season for some reason. And we watched it, and it was still great. This is still a great show, and that would have been probably more than a decade ago now. But still, we weren't kids then. Still enjoyed it. I had Alf stuffed animals as a kid. I had 2. And Alf always will have that spot in my heart. I went here, but my heart's actually
It's just fine. It's all over the place. You got a big heart,
so it's all... got a big heart. It's
all heart, man. And that's not just you. That runs in your family. At one point, your brother's Facebook name was Gordon Shumway.
Yeah.
And such a weird premise to be, at least for a short period of time, a hit.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, yeah, no, that was a really, really, really good show.
I'm not going to go back to the childhood anymore with these, but I had to for one of them.
Yeah, fair enough. Right on. My number 4 best TV show of all time, and since I did the theme song for the last one that Tyler listed, I feel compelled to have to do the theme song for this one because it's iconic and it's easy to pick up on. It's Seinfeld.
It's funny because when you were like, I'm going to do a theme song, I'm like, I bet you it's going to be Seinfeld. Yeah. Like, maybe it's Friends.
Oh, that's it.
But I was like, it's probably Seinfeld.
We should just do a whole video where we just do theme songs. No, Seinfeld is a show that I actively rebelled against when it was huge. Because I was like, it's huge and everyone likes it. That means it must suck. I was one of those assholes. But yeah, and then I pick up on Seinfeld later in life because I'm like, man, this is still in syndication. Maybe I should check this out. And I watched a few episodes and I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why this series is good. And then now I've watched the whole series and I'm like, damn, I wish I would have appreciated this when it was at its peak. Like, I wish now that I was part of that group that I criticized so heavily when I was a child. But this is an incredibly funny show about nothing. And even though some of the personal stuff, certainly that happened with, Michael Richards, it kind of maybe puts a tarnish on a character here or there, but not really. I mean, if you contextualize it, then it doesn't. And Seinfeld is just still such a great show that can still be appreciated today. A lot of people don't like that whole concept of like modern Seinfeld, and I can understand why, because it can be an easy thing to dislike. I'd watch that show for at least a season. I'd watch that show. Anyway, Seinfeld. My number 4.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to try to bring it back, why not? He was just on Alan being like, possibly.
Oh, was he? Oh, nice.
Yeah,
good.
So I don't like Seinfeld.
Okay.
I wish I could. I wish I could be part of that, but I just never liked it. And it would be one of those shows, I remember like back when I had cable, in the way back. There would be those shows, right, that I didn't like a whole lot, but I'd watch them if there was nothing else on, like maybe King of the Hill or stuff like that. I'd be like,
another great theme song.
There's nothing else on, but I don't hate this show, so I'll watch it. Like Futurama, I know I should love it, but I never really got into it.
Me either.
But I would still watch it if it was on, and I'd be like, I'll watch it. But Seinfeld, I'd be like, oh no, there's nothing on. And Seinfeld was always on.
Right, it's true.
So I was like, no, I don't know what to do. What do I watch? So my number 3 is a show I think you would like, but I don't think you've seen it, though I may have talked to you about it. But maybe you've seen it and you're going to prove me wrong. It's called Review with Forrest McNeil. I think you would really like this show because you, like me, love being critical.
I don't think you've ever mentioned this to me before.
Man. Alright, so basically it's a fiction show, so obviously he's not really doing any of this.
Right.
He's this critic, Forrest McNeil, and he has a show, and he has this partner, this girl, who her whole job is basically just to read stuff that fans send in. And the whole premise of each episode is he reviews 3 things in life. He reviews life.
Okay.
So, for example, there's an episode where, and I don't remember how many of these he had to eat, but I'll just say 20.
Okay.
There's an episode where one person writes in, and they're like, hey, I want to know what it's like to eat 20 pancakes. She's like, sure, not a problem. So he eats 20 pancakes, but he feels disgusting. He has to review it. Right?
Okay.
And I'm probably not selling it very well. And then the next one, it's like, well, I want to know what it's like to get in a divorce. And he loves his wife so much, and he has to do enough that she divorces him, right? So, and it's funny. And then the third one is, hey, Forrest, I want to know what it's like to eat 20 more pancakes. And I just like, that's just an example of the show. And if that doesn't, if that idea does it for you, then watch it. I think it would be a show that I would make if I had the resources and it wasn't already made.
You have mentioned this to me before because now I remember it. But yeah, okay.
There's not a show on television now because the next 2 are shows that are no longer on. There's not a show that I anticipate more. When I hear that there's a new season coming, I get so excited I binge it because it speaks to me. It's right there.
Eat 20 more pancakes.
Yeah, after he just got a divorce from the love of his life, right? And I just think it's the guy who plays Forrest McNeil is brilliant. It might have actually been based. I feel like it was based on another show, but I could be wrong there.
Okay.
But I've only seen this one, and I think it's easily my favorite comedy, and actually now that I think about it, it's my favorite comedy of all time.
Wow.
And I'm not going to call you out on camera if you don't watch it. I'm not going to mention it. But I think you would really like it.
Cool.
Because it's so funny. And it's so you. And it's so me.
Yeah, no, that does sound like something I would enjoy. My number 3 best TV show of all time is a show that back in our youth we probably foolishly felt was going to, like, dethrone The Simpsons as the greatest animated show of all time. And that's South Park. And now that's still an argument, I think, that can be made. Especially the early seasons of South Park are tremendous and hilarious and still hilarious if you watch them now, even though, like, South Park does this thing in its earliest seasons where it's very topical. So there are some jokes that are not going to hit anymore from the first season or 2 because they're kind of a product of their time. To people that were living in that time, like we were, those jokes would still hit because they'd be like, I remember when everybody used to make fun of Michael Jackson. Like, I mean, you know, stuff like that. That's one example, obviously. But South Park is so crazy funny for especially those early seasons, basically like up until the movie, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. For what South Park gave me at the time when it first came into my life and when it first started up, for what South Park gave me, I'll never forget the kind of impact that show had and the crazy deep belly laugh moments that TV show and the movie gave me. South Park's my number 3.
It also helped that it felt real dirty back in the day. Like, you're watching, we're staying up till midnight because we're young and we're gonna watch this movie with show with anal probes and stuff. It felt real dirty and taboo, right, back in the day.
Yeah.
Which I guess The Simpsons may have a little bit too, but not as extreme because
definitely
it wasn't as vulgar. My number 2 is Sons of Anarchy.
Ooh. A
show that I resisted for about 4 episodes when it first came out because I looked at it, a motorcycle gang with anarchy in it. Oh, good, they're going to demolish the concept of anarchy. Yeah, another one that might be a good show, but I get tired of them misrepresenting anarchism in the general mainstream, which I know is a little silly to some people, but imagine your own philosophies being constantly crapped on. It gets a little tiresome, right? It wouldn't be enough for me to hate something, but it was enough for me to not really want to watch the show.
Yep.
Even though I like motorcycle gang shows, crime shows and stuff, I was just kind of like, eh. But then I was like, why not? I'll watch it. And I caught up on the episode. And I was very surprised that, at least in the early seasons, Jax's father and whatever would discuss anarchy in his journals, like actual anarchy. No, they didn't go into deep theory or anything, but just the fact that it kind of briefly touched on what it actually is in context of the motorcycle gang. It basically became the thing I was scared. They flipped it, and it became one of the cool things about it in the early seasons. But then, even without that, I realized this is one of the best shows ever because it's a little melodramatic, but that's fine because it did it well. But every episode had a kicker. Even though every episode basically ended with a montage to some music of things happening, it never got tiring. The first couple seasons, again, some of the finest television ever, with some of the greatest heart-wrenching moments I've ever seen in a show. And while there was one season, I can't remember which one, that about half of it kind of went a little, and some people would argue the later seasons did too, but I don't know, I liked that show like through all 7 seasons, and I'm happy that it caught on, because at first it wasn't what it was, but now it's like everyone knows Sons of Anarchy now.
Right.
It's become one of those shows, right? While I'm not super excited for the spin-off that's coming, I'm still really in the original show and think it's just, yeah, it sure has its problems of this typical fiction stuff where like anybody shooting at the Suns never hits them, but they can kind of hit them.
Right.
But that's the typical device that everything uses. So that some of the criticisms that people level on it are a little wonky, and the characters are so great. And I think a lot of people have already seen the show, but if you haven't, then I think it's important to watch it.
I don't think I ever really gave it much of a chance, to be honest, and I can admit that. And I feel like it's not one that I regret that I never gave it a chance. I can just admit that I never really gave it a chance. So maybe it's one that I should. My number 2, and I'm not going to waste any time whatsoever, it's The Simpsons. Which we literally just sort of talked about in the comparison with South Park. And I 100% agree with you when you're like, The Simpsons, nothing touches Simpsons Prime. The Simpsons had that thing going for it where it was on literally 17 times a day if you had a good cable package. I remember I would come home from school and, 3:30, 4:30.
I remember
was
5
nothing.
at one point. Was
5 o'clock on CBC, 5:30 on CBC, 7 o'clock on Fox, 7:30 on Fox, 11 on Fox, 11:30 on Fox, and if you were a night owl like I was in like university, it was like 2 and 2:30 on Fox. So it's like, that's literally like 8 times a day. The Simpsons, I watched The Simpsons so much as a kid that I truly believe this in my head, and this is one of these things that you're going to hear this, and it's going to sound unbelievable to you. I think you know, because I think I've said this to you before, but I haven't said it for a long time. It's going to sound unbelievable to anybody else, but I swear to God, I swear to Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, I swear to you that this is true. At some point through the day, I would quote a Simpsons line at random. I would just pick one. Like, I would say something like, hi, Super Nintendo Chalmers. Like, I would just say that. Inevitably, that episode would be on TV that day.
Yeah, I remember.
At either 5 o'clock or 5:30. And I swear to you, this happened for like 8 years straight. Like, I would quote it at some point in the day, or I would think about it. I wouldn't necessarily even say it out loud. And that friggin' episode would be on TV. So I don't know if I just watched so much of it that I memorized the loop. And I just knew what the loop was. That's some real beautiful mind shit if that's what happened. The Simpsons, in its prime, and I would call its prime probably the first 9 seasons, is so much a part of me growing up. And I know a number of parents, and this is to kind of go back to the South Park point where we're talking about, like, watching South Park felt like you were getting away with something.
Yeah.
I have a coworker who has 3 children, including one that we went to high school with, who would not let them watch The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And I was like, what did you do with South Park? She's like, we didn't even acknowledge it. It's unfortunate that it's been such a, and we probably overstate this, but like the quote unquote fall from grace for The Simpsons, where it's just the fall from grace is literally that show's still good, it's just not as good as it used to be. That's literally the fall from grace for how good the prime of that show was, and the fact that the show's prime was almost 10 years. The Simpsons is my number 2, and it's The Simpsons did as much of a job of raising me almost as my parents did.
I don't really know why parents wouldn't let kids watch it. I guess it's because it's a little offensive, but not too offensive. It did handle social issues, which is scary to some people. Mm-hmm. My mom didn't like it either. I wasn't really ever stopped from watching it, but because she didn't monitor everything I did.
Right.
Like, my mom had concerns as a mom, but she didn't really monitor much unless I was actively, like, hurt by something.
Right.
Right.
We didn't really live in that generation of helicopter parents. Yeah. Like, we just don't think it was really a thing.
Yeah, The Simpsons is and still is, if I had cable, would be one of those shows that I could still just, if I'm sitting around and it's on, I'll just watch The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. And that's a testament to how good it is, because even subpar Simpsons, if it's on, I'm eating or something, oh yeah, Simpsons. I'll watch that while I eat. But yeah, The Simpsons is a really good show. I didn't actually think it would be so high.
I have to bow down and give recognition to one of the shows that raised me, so yeah, absolutely. Number 2. So what's your top one, Tyler? Your number 1?
My number 1 is The Wire.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
The most intelligent show ever made. That's right.
I would argue that The Wire is the best show.
The first 4 seasons are the best television of all time. The 5th one was a bit of a fall from grace, but still not a bad season. The thing about The Wire is, if you were to describe it to somebody who hasn't seen it or heard of it, you would probably be like, yeah, it's a cop show, but it's not one of these ones where they solve a crime every episode. They'll do stuff like wiretap.
Yeah.
And it sounds so boring. Oh, so you're gonna watch people sit on a roof and listen to a wire. But it's more than that. Every season tackles some social issue about the city, to the point that the city is a character, and we sometimes say that and kind of fall back on that when we really love an environment in a movie, but it is true for The Wire, where the city is a character. But on top of that, not only is the plots are compelling and whatnot, but the characters are really memorable. They have a sense of realism to the point that criminals used to watch the show to kind of get an idea of what cops did. Like, they literally did, because the guy who wrote it spent all this time in that world and did research and then wrote like a pretty realistic show about it. But it was so realistic, but yet they still had these awesome characters. Omar walking around with his shotgun whistling, Stringer Bell, Barksdale. They're all great. The drug addict, I can't remember the dude's name now. But he was great. Just every character was great. So not only did I have this show that was, a little slow-paced, but still compelling, but it had fantastic characters without going too over the top. Like, Omar, a little over the top, but not too much.
Right.
Mouzone, I still remember the episode where he came to the city or whatever, and he was sitting on a bench reading, and these people are talking about him. I was like, why doesn't somebody just whack him? It's like, we respect him too much to do that. He's this nerdy-looking dude who's just sitting in a park or whatever reading a book, and everyone's like, we can just whack him. Yeah, but you ain't gonna, because it's Brother Mouzone.
Yeah, exactly.
In TV, if there was one thing I wish I could do again, like truly wish I could do again, I mean, I could say this for any of these shows, really, but I would really love to be able to watch The Wire for the first time. I lived with a guy, and this is when I watched The Wire. I didn't watch during its original airing, and I watched this first season. I was like, man, you should check this out. This is a really good show. Like, this is awesome. I'll put it on like a USB stick, and you just take it up to your room, because he was my housemate.
Right.
He was like, okay, I'll watch that. And then I would keep downloading the seasons and watching it. He needed to study for his exams, and he's like, man, I gotta study for the exams. Don't give me the next season of The Wire. I'm like, okay, cool. He comes down shortly after, yo, can I have it? And I'm like, all right. And I give it to him, and the next day he's like, man, I stayed up all night watching The Wire. And that's what The Wire is. The king stay the king.
Exactly. Plus, The Wire features the single greatest television scene of all time, which is teaching drug dealers how to play chess.
It was definitely a great one. I mean, I don't think it is the best, but it was definitely fantastic.
Oh, that's such a good
That
scene.
show got me right from the beginning, where they're in court or whatever, and Stringer Bell looks at the cop and is just like, "Fuck you, detective."
Yeah.
It got me right from that moment. I was like, "Oh, we're in this."
Exactly.
And to the point where now Idris Elba, he's always going to be Stringer Bell to me.
It's true.
Like, I could talk about the character interactions for this show forever. Between Bell and Barksdale, especially, just amazing chemistry, amazing writing, just everything.
Definitely.
Heartbreaking, smart, The Wire,
Everything.
everything. And now, what is your number one?
My number one best TV show of all time is what I think is one of the most intelligent TV shows ever written. I think it's one of the most influential TV shows ever written, certainly within a genre. I think it is the greatest sci-fi series ever written. I think it arguably has some of the greatest performances of all time on television.
Boo. No, I'm just kidding.
This is Star Trek: The Next Generation. There is no comparison between Next Generation and the original series, and that's going to get a ton of people to thumbs down this video.
Well,
We already lost.
We just
it, it's
lose them.
fine. We go into negative subscribers on this one. I don't think there's any comparison between Captain Kirk and Captain Picard. This series, and it's not, I'm not just looking at it through rose-colored glasses. I'm looking at it as someone who literally binge-watched this series last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking about a sci-fi series from the late 80s, early 90s. And I just rewatched it last year. And I can tell you without hesitation, that show holds up to the point that you could run that show today. The computer animation holds up as if it was today. The writing, I think, is better than you would get today, because today I just feel like there would be some of those, no, we gotta modernize it, we gotta add some modern elements to it. And I think that just kind of takes away from what they were trying to do at that time. I think everything about that series is as good as you could possibly get in the Star Trek universe, and I think it's as good as you will find in the genre of sci-fi. Star Trek: The Next Generation, my number one best TV show of all time.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I just never really cared to watch it, so I don't think I've seen much Star Trek in general.
No, honestly, I mean, like, it's 7 seasons, so it's not like it's crazy stupid long, but it's an investment to watch that whole series, because I mean they're hour-long episodes, right? And they're usually like 20-some episodes a season. But I mean, I could give you a list of like the spanning those 7 seasons, probably the 10 or 15 best episodes. And I think if you watched those, it's like I'd sort of front load it in the first few seasons and then whatever. I really think you would like it. You might find some stuff a little bit slow, but I mean, it's like I love that series so much, and I was so happy with how well it held up. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the latest episode of Weekly Top 5's from Library Chess Productions. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us down here, and we'll see you next week.